Hey y'all, it's Kim. So I was just gonna switch gears. The Epstein stuff is interesting, but some of the people I don't know who they are in there. But I've been doing the Senate torture report, and then just other things pop up about like Osama bin Laden. Because I watch a lot of what do you call them, documentaries and forgotten history and that kind of stuff on YouTube. But anyway, this is from the FBI.gov. This is Osama bin Laden. This is Osama bin Laden, also named as Usama. I guess Osama bin Laden was a violent terrorist and mass murderer who used bombings and bloodshed to advance his extremist goals. After founding the terrorist organization at Al Qaeda, he engineered a series of attacks in multiple countries that killed thousands of men, women, and children, often ordinary citizens just going about their daily lives. Bin Laden's extremist roots. Born in 1957 in Saudi Arabia, bin Laden was the son of a wealthy Saudi businessman. Following the Soviet Union's invasion of Afghanistan in late 1979, bin Laden began providing financial and logistical support to the Islamic fighters battling the Soviets. The Mujahideen, I think is what they call them. In 1988, after Soviet forces were defeated and withdrew from Afghanistan, bin Laden founded an organization called Al Qaeda, or Al Qaeda, I think is how some people have said it, or the base, to continue the cause of jihad or holy war through violence and aggression. So I say a lot of them are not here to assimilate, whatever. Al Qaeda soon began raising money, setting up training camps, and providing military and intelligence instruction in such areas areas as Afghanistan. I'm sorry, I can't say it. As Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Sudan. Under bin Laden's direction, Al Qaeda started launching attacks and bombings in various nations to further its violent aims. During this time, bin Laden was becoming increasingly hostile towards the United States. In particular, he opposed the U.S. military presence in Saudi Arabia and Somalia and sought to drive our nation's personnel out of these areas by force. Hold on, let me move myself down here. All right. And then after centering his operations in Sudan in in the early 1990s, bin Laden began formulating plans to attack the West with an evolving daily new brand of jihad. Bin Laden and other members of Al Qaeda also began issuing fatwas or rulings on Islamic law, indicating that attacks on the U.S. and its citizens were both proper and necessary. Bin Laden later openly declared war on the United States. I didn't realize that's what that fatwa was. I've heard it before. Initial attack on the U.S. soil. On February 26, 1993, so 8 years before 9/11, Ramzi Youssef, a young extremist who had trained in one of bin Laden's camps, led the first major Middle Eastern terrorist attack on American soil by planting a truck bomb beneath the World Trade Center. The plan to topple both towers failed, but 6 people were killed and more than 1,000 were injured. Following the connections, investigators soon uncovered and foiled a second terrorist plot to bomb a series of New York landmarks. The FBI also learned that Youssef was planning more attacks, including the simultaneous bombing of a dozen U.S. international flights. I didn't realize they were doing that even back then, in concert with his uncle, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who later joined Al Qaeda. Ultimately, Youssef was captured, and multiple terrorist operatives were arrested and imprisoned for the World Trade Center bombing, deepening bin Laden's disdain for America. In approximately 1996, bin Laden and his supporters returned to Afghanistan, where an alliance with the Taliban government provided a secluded safe haven for Al Qaeda to train recruits and plan attacks. So, East African bombings and indictment. One of terrorist organizations' major plots came to deadly fruition on August 7th, 1998, when Al Qaeda operatives bombed U.S. embassies in I think it says Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and Nairobi, Kenya. The near simultaneous attacks killed more than 200 American, Kenyan, and Tanzanian citizens and wounded another 4,500 people. These attacks were directly linked to bin Laden, who was who was indicted for his role in the bombings on November 4th, 1998, and again in June of 1999. The charges included the murder of U.S. nationals outside the United States, conspiracy to murder U.S. nationals outside the United States, and attacks on a federal facility resulting in death. A number of top Al Qaeda operatives were ultimately captured and convicted for their roles in the bombings. The attacks led to ramped up anti terror efforts by the U.S. and the FBI, which created its first counterterrorism division in 1999, consolidating its many anti terrorism efforts and capabilities. On June 7th, 1999, the FBI placed Osama bin Laden on its 10 most wanted fugitives list, citing his connection to the 1998 attacks in East Africa. As a new century dawned, Al Qaeda continued its violent attacks. Some major plots failed, including a scheme to bomb the Los Angeles airport on the eve of millennial celebrations. On October 12, 2000, however, terrorist operatives set off a small boat filled with explosives next to the USS Cole during its fuel stop in Yemen. The attack killed 17 Navy sailors, including nearly 40 other crew members, and severely damaged the ship. Let's see. So Osama bin Laden, this is just the FBI 10 most wanted fugitive, deceased, state of photograph unknown. Osama bin Laden, Osama bin Mohammed bin Laden, Sheikh Osama bin Laden, the Prince, the Emir Abu Abdullah Mujahid, I guess, Sheikh, and then Hajj, or the director. So, date of birth used 1957, place of birth is Saudi Arabia, 6'4" to 6'6", approximately 160 pounds, thin build, occupation is unknown, scars and marks, none known. And then remarks, bin Laden is the leader of a terrorist organization known as Al Qaeda, the base. He's left-handed and walks with a cane, brown eyes, brown hair, brown eyes, olive complexion, and then sex is male, obviously, and nationality Saudi Arabian. And then caution, Osama bin Laden is wanted in connection with the August 7th, 1998 bombings of the United States embassies in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and Nairobi, Kenya. These attacks killed over 200 people. In addition, bin Laden is a suspect in other terrorist attacks throughout the world. And then the rewards for justice program, the United States Department is offering a reward of up to $25 million for information leading directly to the apprehension or conviction of Osama bin Laden, whatever. An additional $2 million is being offered through a program developed and funded by the Airline Pilots Association and the Air Transport Association. Considered armed and extremely dangerous. If you have any information concerning this person, please contact your local FBI or the nearest American embassy or consulate. And it was June 1999. And then the poster was revised in November 2001. So here we are. So the attacks of 9/11. Meanwhile, bin Laden and Al Qaeda were plotting to attack America in a more direct and deadly way. On September 11, 2001, terrorists hijacked 4 airliners in the eastern United States. They flew 3 of the planes into buildings, the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York and the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia. They crashed a 4th plane in a field in rural Pennsylvania after passengers heroically rebelled. The horrific attacks killed nearly 3,000 people and injured thousands more. The FBI and its partners quickly learned that the 9/11 attacks were carried out by bin Laden's terrorist organization. The 19 men who hijacked and crashed the four planes were all trained by Al Qaeda, and bin Laden eventually admitted to his role in orchestrating the attacks. The ensuing 9/11 investigation was the most massive in the history of the Bureau. The attacks led to far reaching changes in the FBI, which made prevention of terrorist strikes its overriding priority and deliberately set out to be more predictive and intelligence driven in addressing all major national security and criminal threats. On October 10, 2001, Osama bin Laden was added to the newly launched Most Wanted Terrorist list. The U.S. and other nations joined military operations in Afghanistan to find him and other Al Qaeda terrorists, but bin Laden managed to elude capture. In August 2010, U.S. intelligence agencies developed information that Osama bin Laden was likely living in a compound in northern Pakistan on May 2nd, 2011, under orders from President Obama. A special operations unit raided the compound and killed bin Laden. In announcing the successful operation, President Obama said bin Laden was not a Muslim leader, he was a mass murderer of Muslims. Indeed, Al Qaeda has slaughtered scores of Muslims in many countries, including our own, so his demise should be welcomed by all who believe in peace and dignity. That's just according to the FBI.gov website and the history. I've got some other ones here that I wanted to kind of go over too, but that will probably be another day. And then there's a bunch of stuff down here, additional information on Al Qaeda. So, I'll look into these, just kind of see what's going on in there. This will probably give more details on each of these. East African embassy bombings, Millennium plots, USS Cole bombing, 9/11 investigation, and bin Laden killed. So, anyway, I will talk to y'all later, and I'll put the link to this in the comments. So if you want to, or that, excuse me, in that description section. So if you want to go back and read any of it, feel free. Anyway, talk to y'all later. Bye.